Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're putting suspense right under the microscope. We're going to look at all the little pieces that make up those stories. The ones that make our palms sweat and our hearts absolutely race.
So let's just dive right in with the big question, right? Why do we pay to be scared? What is it about these suspenseful stories that pulls us in, even when they make us, super uncomfortable? Why do we actually look for that feeling of being on the edge of our seats?
Well, it turns out psychologists think our brains are kind of wired for it. I mean, think about it from an evolutionary point of view. Worrying is actually a survival instinct, right? It's our brain's way of preparing for threats, of running through all the worst-case scenarios. So when we get hooked on a fictional threat, we're basically getting to scratch that deep-seated itch, but from the safety of our couch.
So that's what we're going to do in this explainer. We're going to break it all down. We'll look at the characters leading us through the maze, the camera tricks, the sounds, all of it, all to figure out why we just can't seem to look away.
Okay, so where does it all begin? Well, usually it starts with a character, someone we can follow into the darkness, someone who can hopefully make sense of all the chaos for us. And that's our guide, the investigator.
When you're crafting a detective, it's this really delicate balancing act. On one hand, you gotta give the audience what they expect. Like, if you're reading a cozy mystery, you want that clever, quirky detective. But on the other hand, the detectives we really remember, they take that formula and they just flip it on its head a little. They give us something familiar, but also something totally new. So, if you look at a lot of writing guides, they'll tell you that a great detective really boils down to these four key things. Yeah, they need a special strength, that one thing they're amazing at, but it's their weakness, their core flaw, that actually makes them feel real to us? Then you've got their motivation, the why behind it all, that gives the story its heart. And finally, the quirks. Those little details are what make them stick with you way after you finish the book. And get this, it's not just an art form. These formulas are so real, so foundational that an AI can actually spot them. Seriously, a study used AI to analyze a ton of famous detectives, and it could tell the difference between a logical Sherlock Holmes type and a more gut instinct Philip Marlowe type. That's how deep these patterns run in our stories. Even a machine can see them. All right, so that's the character. Now let's switch gears and talk about filmmaking. How do you build that same suspense on screen? Well, directors have this whole toolkit of tricks using sound and visuals to really get under our skin. Okay, let's take a look at the sound in David Fincher's The Killer. The sound design team made some really wild choices, and all of them were meant to just unsettle you. Like, they'd suddenly cut the music, or they'd play it out of only one speaker to make you feel off balance. They even took a brutal fight scene and removed all the grunts and cries, so all you hear are these sickening sounds of impact. It's incredibly effective. Now, on the visual side, one of the biggest tools in the toolbox is something called a low-key lighting. Basically, you flood the scene with shadows, leaving huge parts of the screen totally dark. Why? Because then the filmmaker doesn't even have to show you the monster. They let your imagination do the heavy lifting. And let's be honest, what we imagine is usually way scarier than anything they could put on screen. And then there's color. Color is a huge psychological trigger. Directors use cool colors, blues and greens, to make us feel isolated, cold, or maybe like something supernatural is going on. And red, well, red is a big one. It's almost universally linked to danger, to violence. There's even some evidence that just seeing red light can make your heart rate tick up a little, basically getting you ready for a fight before anything has even happened on screen. So here's the really crucial point. All these modern filmmaking tricks, they're not actually inventing new fears. What they're doing is tapping into anxieties that are ancient, things we've been scared of for forever. The fears our ancestors had are still inside us. They're just wearing modern clothes now. I mean, take a look at stories from medieval Kerala and India. They talk about the Yakshi, this shape-shifting spirit that hangs out on lonely roads. She seduces travelers with her beauty and then kills and eats them. It's that classic, terrifying story of the monster on the road, right? It's literally the fear of what's waiting for you out there in the dark. And what's just fascinating is that you see this exact same monster pop up in different cultures. The Yakshi in India creates these fake, beautiful homes to trap people. And guess what? The Lamia from ancient Greece, a half-serpent creature, did the exact same thing to lure in her victims. It points to this universal, deep-seated human fear, the fear that something beautiful on the outside might be hiding something truly monstrous on the inside. Okay, so this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. We've got our detective, we've got the filmmaker's craft,
And we have these ancient fears they're trapping into. So what makes it all work so well? What's the secret sauce? Well, it's ambiguity.
Let's take a perfect case study, the incredible Korean horror film, The Wailing. This movie is an absolute masterclass in suspense, and it leaves pretty much everyone who watches it arguing about one single question long after it's over. Who was the real evil in that village?
See, the film intentionally gives you evidence that points in two completely different directions. The director even said he wanted it to be ambiguous. By never giving you a straight answer, the movie pushes you, the viewer, into the exact same state of confusion and paranoia as the main character. You're not just watching him fall apart, you're kind of falling apart right there with him.
So, at the end of the day, these suspenseful stories are really giving us a safe space to wrestle with our deepest fears, right? Fears about randomness, about evil, about how much we just don't know. And they prove that sometimes the questions that stick with you, the ones that linger in the dark, are so much more powerful than any easy answer you could get in the light.